Welcome, skippers, to round one of the Melges Cup finals between the United States and Switzerland. In the round robin, the USA finished first in the fleet with an overall record of 10 wins and 1 loss. Switzerland finished third overall and was 7 wins and 4 losses. You may recall that the United States beat Switzerland by a narrow margin in their match race after the USA blew a very big lead, only to have Switzerland make a tactical blunder at the finish line. This was due to poor AI programming, and it really wrecked an otherwise really good finish. In the semis, the USA blew New Zealand out of the water in their 2 matches, and Switzerland beat Australia in theirs. Now in the finals, the United States boat has a very slight advantage overall. They're equal in hulls. The United States' only advantage really is in spinnakers. Sails and crew are also even. So hopefully we'll be bringing you some more close racing in this round than we have in the past. So out on the water, the boats are getting ready for the start. We find that the weather is cloudy. The winds are out of the east at force 5, and we're on an ebb tide. This should be perfect conditions for both boats. The preparatory flag is up. Let's get ready to race. So as soon as we get settled down here, I'll show you an overhead view of the course. First off, I want to make sure that while I'm doing that, I'm not going to be creating any fouls and starting off with a disadvantage. Okay, so we start here in the middle, and we sail to the east. We round the first mark and head southwest. Round the second mark, heading west. 120-degree turn around the third mark, back into the wind after the fourth mark, and another 120-degree turn for a run to the finish line. Now I'm tacking just to stay in front of the Switzerland boat, and my bad, I didn't accelerate very quickly as I did not have my jib up. And I did not give the Switzerland boat room to keep clear. As a result, I pick up the tack before we start, and that will have to be served after the start. Now in match racing, in other words, 2 boats going head to head like this, a foul doesn't have to be served until you cross, it has to be served before you cross the finish line. But I can wait up until the last leg just before I cross the finish line in order to serve my penalty, hoping that maybe I can have a penalty on the other team's boat, and that would wipe both penalties out. Now, if you were in fleet racing, that's not true. You have to serve your penalty as quickly as possible. So we're counting down to the start here, about 30 seconds to go. I'm on port tack, got my jib up, and in a moment I'm going to turn around to the starboard tack, which is the favored tack for a start of a race because it gives you right away. So tacking into the wind now, picking up a little speed. Switzerland off in the distance there on port tack. So at our first crossing, I'll be on starboard, they'll be on port, I'll have right away. There's the starting gun. We're both legal to start, and Right now, Switzerland has a very slight advantage, 1.1 second lead at the start. You can see I have to still do my 360-degree penalty. Here's our first meeting, our first crossing. You can see that the Swiss boat has about a 1 boat length lead. So I'm going to go ahead and get my penalty out of the way early here. It is now served and I can sail on and just worry about good tactics, good sailing, and try to beat the opponent to the finish line. Right now it's a matter of keeping my boat at its optimum angle to the wind, keeping that little arrow to the right of my boat green, which means I'm going as fast as I can up into the wind. You can see the first mark indicated by that arrow to the top right that's bobbing up and down. And we get a little bit of a wind shift there, so I have to fall off. We got basically headed. The wind moved more toward the front of my boat, which makes me turn away from the direction I want to go. You can see the Swiss boat off in the distance there. They were still on port tack. Now I am counting for about an 80-degree turn angle. In other words, it takes about 80 degrees of compass heading to turn my boat through the wind and pick up the tack on the opposite side. So right now my heading is 050. My course over the ground is the same, 050. So when the course to the next mark gets to be about 130 or so, it'll be time to tack. Looking at the current, it's going to be pushing me a little bit into the mark, so I want to give myself a little extra room. So my heading is 045. So 125 is where I want to tack. I waited till I got to 130. That'll give me a little bit of an extra cushion so that I won't get pushed to the wrong side of the mark. Now here I am on the port tack. You can see by the top right of the screen, Switzerland still has the lead. They beat us over the line by 1.14 seconds. They're on starboard tack now, and I'm on port tack, which means when we get to this crossing, they will have right away. I'm going to have to stay clear of them, and you can see that by that red rule number 10. Boats on opposite tacks. The boat on starboard has right away. So right now that's Switzerland, but you can see I just moved into the lead. I don't know if that's from boat speed, better sailing, or if we got a favorable wind shift. The USA boat is now ranked in first place, so the big question now is, can I get in front of them without fouling them? Remember, I have to stay out of their way. If we're going to hit, I have to tack out of their way. So let's take a look and see how close this is. They had about a 1 boat length lead the first time we crossed, and here we are coming up. It's going to be very close. And as you can see from the helicopter view here, we just barely crossed in front of them. We picked up about 2 boat lengths on that leg of the course. We crossed about as far behind us on that crossing as we crossed behind them on the first crossing. So pretty darn good race so far. Rounding the first mark, we have a 3.44 second lead. We pop the spinnakers. In this position, Switzerland can actually blanket our wind. What that means is their sails actually block the clean air from reaching my sails. You can use that as a tactic to slow the boat in front down. And right now, they're kind of slipping up right behind me. What they want to do is kind of imagine where the wind is coming from and then be in between where the wind is coming from and my boat, and that will be effectively blocking them. But as it is, they're falling too far behind, so the wind is actually getting to my sails rather quickly, or cleanly, I should say. And remember, my boat has a slight advantage in spinnaker, so if they don't block the wind effectively, we should be able to pull out just a little bit of a lead on this leg. But it's still a pretty good race. Rounding the buoy, we have a slight lead. and I make a tactical mistake. I was thinking this was going to be a beat or a reach and not be able to use her spinnaker, so Switzerland keeps their sail up, their spinnaker up, and I drop mine, and as a result, they move into the lead. You can see that we had a 3.18 second lead after we rounded that mark, so Switzerland closed the gap by 0.2 seconds on that last leg. Once again, the United States just moved back into the lead. That's probably because I have a slightly better spinnaker than the Swiss boat. But right now it's pretty darn close. We're neck to neck, heading to the third mark. Right now I'm just trying to figure out what's going to be the best time to tack over to a port tack. So right now, Rule 12 applies. Two boats on the same tack. We're both on starboard. The windward boat has the right of way, so that would be Switzerland. They're to the windward side of my boat. I have to stay clear of them. Ready to tack over here. I think we're pulling out just a little bit more of a lead than we had at the last mark. Still a pretty good race. Now Switzerland decides to come over. I think they were thinking that perhaps we were in their way. They might hit us, so they didn't. So while they delay, I tack over to port. Switzerland immediately follows and tacks over to port. You can see that we now have a fairly decent lead, probably atoning to the fact that we have a slightly better spinnaker. But for some unexplained reason, Switzerland's trying to sail much too much to the left. Their spinnaker is stalling, and you can see that we're just continuing to pull away. So what was a pretty darn good race up to that point becomes a moot point. Now on that heading, spinnaker up, I could not make the mark. If I tried to sail more toward the mark, which is what Switzerland's trying to do, the boat was heeling over too much and it just wasn't sailing very effectively. So I dropped the spinnaker. We're now under main and jib, and I can easily make this mark. We have a 3.18 second lead after the last mark. It's going to be considerably larger after this one. Okay, so we just rounded the mark, and look at that, way off in the distance there. Switzerland still floundering. Big criticism of this game is that the AI boats, as AI in multiple other games, is just not very skillful. So we had a very good race going, and all of a sudden, for unexplained reasons, Switzerland just can't sail to the next mark, and we have a huge lead, and basically it's a boring race from here on out. Now this is under the Melges, using the Melges, and I'm going to race using other boats, particularly the Melges Cup type boats, the bigger sloops, and see if maybe the AI skippers sail those better than the Melges Cup. So Switzerland just rounded the mark, and they're essentially 51 seconds behind. End of race. So now it's just a matter of making sure that I don't make any tactical decisions. Like last time I sailed Switzerland, blew a big lead after turning the wrong way. I got a little disoriented on the course, started heading in the wrong direction. By the time I realized my mistake and came back, Switzerland had taken the lead and should have won that race had they not made an AI blunder right at the finish line. So here we are coming up to the next mark. Switching over to a port tack. And I didn't give myself as much room as I should have. We just barely squeezed by that mark. We're legal, we didn't touch it. Remember, if any part of our boat touches a rounding mark, you have to do a penalty turn. Now we're beating up to the second to the last mark. Can't sail directly at it because it's more or less straight into the wind. Again, I love the graphics on this game. It really makes you feel like you're out on the water. You just see those swells coming at you. Your boat rising up like a duck on a pond, falling off on the far side of the swells. Fantastic. Got headed again. The winds shifted more toward the nose of the boat. Had to turn to the right or to starboard, falling away, further away from the mark that we're trying to get to. And what is actually ahead on port tack is a lift on the starboard tack. It actually allows us to make it on the starboard tack. We're going to be able to get to the next mark. You can see our course over the ground is 046. The course to the next mark is 039. So we have several degrees in hand to get around that last mark. Now Switzerland finally rounded the mark that we already passed, and they are now 59.4 seconds behind. We can actually fall off a little bit here, pick up a little bit of speed as we round that last mark, and we turn for home. You can see it's a beautiful day here in Rio de Janeiro. There's a landmark mountain off to the right there, like a thumb sticking up on the horizon. And if I'm not mistaken, off to the left on the top of that hill is a giant statue of Jesus with his arms outstretched, protecting the city of Rio de Janeiro. So now we're on a beam reach for the finish line. Looking behind us, we can see the Swiss boat still approaching the second to the last mark I should say. Well behind us with no chance of making this up, short of one of my crew members pulling the plug on the boat and having us sink. Remember, we were 59.3 seconds ahead at the last mark, and we have turned that into a lead of 1 minute 7.3 seconds. Game over. At this point, I'm about to hit the wrong button, trying to get rid of the rules block at the top right just so we can enjoy the scenery. And unfortunately, that made me lose the last little bit of this video. Not that it was an exciting finish. In fact, you can see that the Swiss boat actually put his spinnaker up. And on a broad reach like that, I'm kind of surprised. Anyway, USA wins round one of the finals easily against Switzerland, and Switzerland has a lot of catching up to do. They want to stay in the game. So I'll be back with round two of the finals to see if the United States can wind up winning the Melges Cup. Once again, thanks for watching. Please post comments, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe if you'd like, and we'll see you back on the water soon.